Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Xwf Podcast. And gentlemen, it's time for the Xwf Podcast with your host, Chronic Chris Page, them no good bastards, Thunder Knuckles, Bobby Bourbon, and yes, if available, Bearded War Pig. And the action starts now.
Give us a week and we will give you an intro. What's going on, guys? Chris Page here. It's the Xwf Podcast coming at you with another episode. Episode 2, coming off an amazing snow job pay-per-view. Being joined today by them no good bastards, Thunder Knuckles, Bobby Bourbon. Bobby, smartest man in the world. How's it going?
It's going.
It's going.
We'll go with that. How about that?
Perfect. TK, your neck of the woods, man. What's up?
Everything's good. Can't complain.
Today we got we have two guests. There are 2 segments lined up. Everyone's aware. It's going to kind of be of an anticipated episode. The first guest coming in today, one of the owners, principal owner of the XWF, a guy that we all know and love, who has the most thankless job of them all. Between him and our second guest this afternoon, Vincent Lane. Welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Hey, doing great, guys. Great intro, by the way. I don't know how you got DJ Khaled, but I'm so happy that you did.
Well, that was TK, man. He's got all the connections.
Great job, TK. I don't like you, but you did good.
I understand.
I know, speaking for us, like we're thrilled to have you and Theo on the second episode. I wish that we would have put a little bit more time into that first one. And we'd have had you on then. I know it takes time out of your personal schedule. We appreciate it. I think the Fed's gonna appreciate it. First, man, like snow job. Wow. Overall, wow. Bobby, like I know we're gonna cover the show in just a second, but your thoughts initially on this, that was a spectacle, man. There was like 42 talents on the show and over 70 almost 80 role plays.
Yeah. I mean, just an overall effort from everybody that role played from it was huge. Everybody that contributed to the show and wrote it, like that was also massive. I was just blown away. It was a really fun read. You know, it was one of those things I could sit down and just the more I read it, the more fun that it got. You know, it was a good time just to sit down, and I really enjoyed myself reading it. What'd you think, TK?
I loved the show. It was good. It was all around great show. Applaud. Everybody. Fucking jackasses.
Vinny, I mean, Vinny's the first pay-per-view of 2021. How did it come off in your eyes?
Well, I think it was great. I mean, I think as a whole, we usually do really good on the big shows. I think everybody gets really into it. They get into the build for it. They get excited to make it look pretty. And, you know, the writers kind of get into a second gear. And it always turns out really good on the big shows. This was a good one. It was a good way to start off the year.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we'll kind of jump right into it. First match, billed as the 12-person Blitz Massacre. We had we'll call it Team Finn versus Team Claude, as those are the first 2 names on the card. Listen, we talked about this before it even happened, before the show took the air. The writer of this match had a lot of fun with it, and you could tell. It was, in my opinion, it delivered across the board, not only in the match writing itself and the comedic standpoints that are in it, the people that role played that were involved in it, all the way down to, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I got the parlay on this one. I was the only one that picked Team Morbid to win, or Team Claude, with Morbid picking up the victory. Vinny, let's go to you with this opening match, man. What did you think about that? That was a complete clusterfuck of awesomeness.
Yeah, that means I did it right. So, I mean, I actually wrote that one. So, that's what I was going for. Those guys that were involved in that. It's great when you get a handful of people that you know you can sit down and you can just write whatever the hell you feel like writing and they'll be cool with it. So especially Morbid. He's been gone for a long time. There's a lot of BS that went on with him. It's great to have him back in the fold, and he's a fun guy to mess around with. And I like to stick some stuff in there that I know he'll like. Yeah, I mean, everybody actually kind of turned out for it. I think there was like 1 or 2 no shows, right? I think there was a Finn that's kind of his gimmick. He just doesn't show up, so that was to be expected. But yeah, it was a blast. It was a lot of fun to write. I even enjoyed reading it after I wrote it.
I mean, while it's the opening match on the show, but to have 12 people and have 10 of those people show up. I mean, anytime you book a fucking massive brawl like that, you expect there to be a couple of no shows, usually more than 2. I thought that was impressive.
Yeah, there were some people in there for sure. I think a lot of times, and you could probably ask Theo about this later too, because I think he has the same philosophy. If we have some people that we're not sure if we can really count on them, to put them in a better position, then that's when you end up with kind of these multi-man situations, right? We're kind of like, okay, we'll just put these guys in there, and if they show up, great. If they don't, nobody really will get their feelings hurt. But they all kind of did, right? So I mean, there were some people who historically maybe haven't been that reliable that did turn out, and that just makes it better because then for myself and for other people who write matches, you want to live up to what people are expecting who role played for it. So that's what I tried to do.
You did a really good job with it. Like that, it opened the show up amazingly. Bobby, as you were reading this, what were your initial thoughts, and what was your favorite spot in the match?
My initial thoughts was like, oh wow, they got Al Michaels. It was just the homage to it was the homage to Monday Night Football, and I really dug that. And just reading through and just all the spots that were involved were a lot of fun. Like I could just tell that somebody was just well, not somebody, Vinny. You were writing with watercolors in this one. You just kind of you didn't go freeform completely, but you definitely, just started splashing all over the page whatever you'd liked and made it fun. And I liked it.
TK.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you follow that? And how? Painting with watercolors and shit. It was a fun match to read. I really liked it, and it's pretty much where that lies.
I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. I really laughed my ass off when I saw the Jan Brady spot. I thought that was fucking hilarious.
Well, that's Tommy Gunn for you, man. He just doesn't have the arm strength. So that's what you get.
Oh, that was hilarious. I loved it. That was a great spot. At the end of the day, though, Morbid picks up the victory for his team. A solid way to kickstart the program. It was when we were discussing the build up to this show. We were talking about how the match layout of this pay-per-view was phenomenal from the opening match all the way down to all the way up to the main event, or down to the main event. It seemed like every single match was building upon building upon building. Kudos to Theo and yourself for the layout of this program, because it adds a lot to it on the writing standpoint. Match 2, Holy Roman Warhorse, Centurion. I'm gonna be honest, man. I was a little disappointed in the Warhorse's efforts with Centurion. The match itself was a pretty good read. Reverse the order, TK. Since you don't want to follow the smartest man in the world,
Yeah, why would you? Why would you want to follow the smartest man in the world? Anyway, you picked Sint for a reason. He's solid. I think we all agreed that Sint would win this. And now I'll pass it over to the person who paints with watercolors.
Nah, the reason you don't want to follow me is because I have gas.
Ah.
I thought the match was what it was. I think that there could have been more to it. I think that they both got some RPs up, and then they showed up for the show. But other than that, it was a very brief read. I mean, not a ton of spots, not a lot of wrestling action. It was more of an action movie sequence than let's just call it what it was. It was a cinematic match, and it was pretty cool.
Well, it's an attraction.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was an attraction. Vinny, where are you at with this one?
Well, a little inside baseball, right? Like that was more of how do we get rid of Warhorse, right? So
Mm.
he didn't want to do it anymore. He didn't like it for a myriad of reasons, politically and things that went on in the world and things like that. He's like, I got to get out from underneath this character. Let's just kill it. So that's what we did.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So behind the curtain, ladies and gentlemen, with the one and only. Well, that explains a lot then.
Yep.
So I retract my statement about Warhorse roleplay because now that it's out there. Um, Not going to really go over a whole lot of segments, but this next one I do want to gloss over and give it some attention, and that was the return of Hawaiian Hardhead. Is anyone on the cat? Are you guys familiar with Hawaiian Hardhead? Oh,
Ne- Never heard of him. I know he's from the old days, right? So that's I think you're the only one here who knows anything about the guy.
he's amazing in his own way. Like he writes for several characters, and the fact that he's getting back into the writing game is really exciting.
Great.
He was over in the WGWF for a while. I actually think he got my world title for a hot minute. But on a writing standpoint, if you haven't seen his work or been privy to any of it, get ready because he can tell you a really good story. And he's all around hell of a writer. So when I saw him coming back to the Fed, I kind of marked out on the inside because I don't know what to expect with this run. But as far as the writer itself, if he puts his heart into it, you everybody open your eyes and watch out.
That's great to hear. I mean, the WGWF World Title. I mean, that and 50 cents will get you a cup of coffee.
And that and 10 cents will get you a cup of coffee. The reason why we're not around anymore. Bro, I'll be honest with you, man. I couldn't do it. I did it for 12, on and off 12 years. I don't, no, I'm done. Uh, as far as Fed heading. So more power to you. And that's why I will graciously help you and do whatever you need me to do for you because I know you have a thankless job. The next match on the card, the World Heavyweight Championship. Tommy Wish, John Black, Big D, triple threat. Basically, the Thugs versus Big D for the world title. Started out just as kind of like I expected it to, more of a glorified handicap match, and of course you had your moments where the tag partners went at it. I thought that uh, overall, I thought the match itself was pretty good. The read of the match was great. I think they only went 1,000 words with the role plays. But you can tell that Big D is doing everything he can to get this world title over, and more power to him for it. It's just a shame that he's not going to have it for too much longer. Um,
Damn.
More shots,
I
man.
know shots
I
fired,
think as
bro.
of this recording, he's up. So get him, D.
Well, end of the day, Big D retains. He retains the world's title. Vinny, what do you think about the? Hey, let me pick your brain for a second. What do you think about Big D, the character, bringing back the world's title to tell a story for his character? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do is tell stories, right? So
Right.
if you have a prop like that, obviously, we don't go out and recognize it, treat it like it's, one of the regular ones. I don't, mark his name differently on the site or anything like that. So that's kind of his own thing to build up his character and his storyline. And I think for what it is, it's good. I mean, it's given him something to write about, and it's given other people ammunition to go at him with, and that's really the kind of the whole point of everything.
It's like here's where this is where I kind of fall in love with it a little bit because like you can tell that Big D cares about what he's doing.
Right. Yeah.
That's huge when you jump into something and you give a shit about what you're trying to do, you can always tell the finished product. I see it here and I see it in the match and I see what he's doing. Kudos to him. Bobby Bourbon, talk to me on Big D retaining the World Heavyweight Championship.
Well, at this point, the World Heavyweight Championship is Big T's gimmick. It's kind of like Vinny said. It's his talking point, and it's his opponent's talking points. So, if I were to have a match with Big D, tomorrow, I could pick at, or work with the World Heavyweight Championship rather than your Big D, just another name or a face. So I think that the match itself, it did tell a decent enough story. Is he jump starting an actual championship? Not quite. Could he? Who knows? I don't know. Like that's not my call. But he's just having a really good time with it, and yeah, it brings depth to the character. It's big depth. So TK, what do you think?
I think the match was written really well. I really liked the dissension between JB and Tommy. And I think it was JB pushed Tommy into a schoolboy. So I said there'd be some dissension. I was right. Bang.
You did. You called it. You said you called it on the podcast last week.
Yep.
Too bad that wasn't a parlay question,
Right.
motherfucker.
Exactly. You're the only one who got that.
I know. Pat yourself on back. Rolling into our next match, like Vinny, I want you to take the lead on this. This is the Internet Championships. Bobby London's Miss Fury. It's an Anarchy title. The guys schooled me on the last podcast that this is more of an angled belt. And we're telling stories. We're doing some things here. With it being on Anarchy, how did you like how this played with Miss Fury and Bobby London?
Yeah, no, the internet title is an angled idea. That's basically, the idea of it, and there's a lot of aspects to modern e-fetting, right? You go onto Twitter, there's a lot of e-feds out there where there is no role playing as far as written role playing. They're just tweeting and on the board acting out their characters, and that's how they determine their wins and their losses, is just kind of at the whims of the Fed heads and things like that. So I wanted to have that aspect in XWF to attract those kinds of people who might only enjoy doing it that way. So
Bobby
when I
called
made
it last week when he said, here in the XWF, like there's this really something for everybody, and this kind
right,
of caters right to that.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. And when I added the Anarchy show, that was with that in mind, and with also the lower word count, the lower output in mind, because there's people out there that really only do like micro-sized writing, that even 1,000-word role play is a lot to them, and they wouldn't join because they see warfare, they see 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 word role plays, and they're like, I'm out, I can't do it. So I wanted to give somebody an opportunity to do something smaller or to do something angled, and that's where we came with the internet. It's really nothing more than a storytelling tool.
Well,
Big barn walking out with that title.
Yeah.
well, I wanted to kind of circle back to what Vinny said. This is just a question that I have, and I think I already know the answer. Um, is it possible for somebody to, write a series of role plays that are only 1,000 words each and compete with somebody who's writing, those 3, 4, 5,000 word RPs? Like if say you go on Warfare, there's 3,000 word RPs against 5,000 word RPs. Is there really a specific edge?
Yeah, honestly, there is 100%, because there are people that can't only write 1,000 words. It's an entirely different skill set to write something that is good but also short. You can write something short that sucks. That's easy. You can write something long that sucks. But
Well,
if you
I know
somebody
how to
like
do that.
do you? Oh yeah, I'm good. I've read a lot of it,
Thank you.
but but somebody like a Robert Maine, for instance, or Chris Page or Thaddeus Duke, these guys who we just watched write their hearts out and write a ton of words. If I asked them, hey, write something that's less than 1,000, they might not be very good at it. And that's where it can kind of level a playing field in that regard, because there are people who are good at one but not the other.
Gotcha. Well, just to
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
well, just to give my thoughts on the match again, really fun read. I know it's an angled title, so I didn't go into it like with a lot of like intrigue about who was going to win. It was more about what was going to transpire. And yeah, just seeing Barney walk out with a championship is awesome. Kind of a shame because I dig the Bobby London character. But that just means that the story's going to progress with everybody involved, and I look forward to see what comes next.
Yeah, Bobby's a perfect character, especially for that that internet kind of division. If you ever go on to Twitter and you follow Bobby London, it's usually a lot of fun. So she's kind of perfect for if I ever need somebody to put it on. There's Bobby London.
Gotcha.
DK.
I loved this match. I absolutely loved this match. From Silverstein running down to Barney winning. It was a great match. I loved it.
Everybody loves Barney. I mean,
Yeah.
but don't read his Twitter. That's a mistake.
Vinny, we're sticking with the Anarchy theme here because the next match is the Anarchy Championship match. Now, you spoke earlier, about the 1,000 word limit with Anarchy, and I held my thoughts because I wanted to bring it in here. With it being 1,000 words, to me, like that, to be able to write 1,000 words and write good 1,000 words. Like you take your rubies, you take all four of these chicks involved here, all four of them. To be able to crush, or not just crush somebody, be somebody 1,000 words, like that is with good writing, mind you. That's fucking impressive.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, and the one thing that is kind of difficult about it is you're trying to get all your stuff in there, right? And especially when it's a multi-person, you want to address everybody, and that's really hard to do in 1,000 words. But I think everybody did it pretty well.
Yes, for this match specifically, yes, this was a good one. This was one that I came to you behind the scenes and said, "Yo, I want this." So that being said, I mean, I want to turn it over to you because it's the focal point for Anarchy, and Anarchy's your baby. So here you are. You've got Ruby, you've got Kenzie, you've got Miss Fury, you've got Chula. Obviously and arguably your four top stars on the program right now. Duking it out fatal four-way, elimination style. How do you think I delivered this match?
Well, Chris, if you noticed, on the XWF 1999 Twitter account, the Anarchy title match was the fans' favorite. Walked away with all the votes as far as the favorite match of the show.
No
So shit. Great job.
Yeah, I'm not on Twitter I mean, I'm on Twitter, but I'm not. Like, I'm kind of in and out.
Yep, it was
That's
definitely
fucking
voted
great.
number one.
Oh yeah.
Got
Wow.
Yeah, it's not even close. It's like a landslide how popular this match was.
I got 60% of the vote. Yeah.
Yep.
Deal. I'm
Huge.
glad that they enjoyed that. I felt with those four characters involved, and I know three of the handlers, I believe. I know all four of them, actually. I was like, fuck this. Let me try and do some shit. And then the incorporation of Sarah Lachlan at the beginning of the match, in her spots towards the end, like Lachlan is, to me, I was a little hurt when she left and had to take off while she was champ. I don't think the surface was scratched.
No. Sarah Lachlan is great. Worked a lot with Sarah Lachlan, and Kenzie Gray, obviously with my alt characters, and I can link you to whatever you want to read. But we've done a lot of work together. Lachlan's a lot high output, high energy kind of storyteller. And actually, that was not even planned when that was booked in the first place. Lachlan left because Lachlan was out. Lachlan had real issues that they had to handle and got busy, and so we had to work the title off of them. But when she came to me and said, "Hey, I want to get involved again," I was like, "Yeah, hell yeah, like absolutely, let's do that." And all of that was really Lachlan's idea. So we worked it out. And you're right. I mean, those four characters are absolutely the top, and for good reason. I mean, they traded the title back and forth for like the last several months, and we just needed the big blow off.
And it was a big blow off at Snow Job. I mean, Chula going out first, that you guarantee a new champion. I felt like it could have really went either way between Fury, Ruby, and Kenzie. I thought all three of those stood out as far as the front runners from my eyes when I was reading the role plays, and I was just amazed, even with it being a thousand words, is what really amazed me about the whole process. I mean, that's just the fact. At the end of the day, Ruby 3 times, the only Anarchy athlete or Anarchy champion to win the belt 3 times. TK, when you were cruising through this match, man, what were you? How were you feeling about it?
Well, I mean, this match had it all, man. Return of Sarah Lachlan, probably the coolest intro of the night. Miss Fury bridging the gap between GCWA and XWF. That was pretty neat. And the elimination order, you know, pretty much if you're not paying attention to Anarchy, you're fucking up. So you need to start watching.
Bobby,
It's the number one show, guys. It's the number one show. Trust me.
It is a good show. In terms of this match, I'm going to go ahead and just break my spine, pat myself in the back because I called Ruby. And it's like Vinny said, at 1,000 words, I can't beat Ruby, one on one at 1,000 words, not at all. I thought the match was great read. The return of Locke, like there were so many cool storyline segments and like things that happened here. Lachlan coming back, that's huge. Like I was excited. Like as soon as I saw the font, I was like, no way. It was like, yes, Lachlan's back, and that's some good storytelling. Um, the tail end of the match with Miss Fury going left hand and also being in Bob. Um, that could be some interesting storyline coming forward. And and also I was also very, very, very pleased to see myself and my tag team partner making a cameo. The first cameo of the night of them No Good Bastards. So, that from a personal standpoint, my ego was sated there. But otherwise, realistically, just a great effort from everybody that RP'd. Great job from the writer of the match. I think we talked about this was going to be the sleeper. It definitely was. I mean, the Twitter poll shows it. I'm just going to echo it right now. This is there was a lot of great matches on this card. This one, I'm calling this one was my match of the night, just because of everything it hit. It hit all those notes of surprises, of action, and of storyline progression. So that's my opinion on it.
I was happy with it. I was happy with the overall product. I really wanted that brand to be on a match writing standpoint to like I wanted that title and those 4 writers to be proud of what they did to get to that point. Um, I thank you guys. Glad you liked the match. It was a fun ride. If you ever book them again, I got you, Vinny. I'll take care of that.
Oh man, I mean, as long as they keep showing up, they're going to end up against each other in some capacity because those are the 4 big hitters on the show. I mean, it's impossible to keep them out of that scene. Ruby will
Mm-hmm.
always be there. I mean, everybody loves Ruby. Let's face it. I mean,
It's
everybody
pretty
loves
true.
Ruby.
It's true.
I mean, Kenzie is one of my favorite reads. Tula's a great character that I think you know has almost kind of outgrown everything because kind of completed her arc as far as the Anarchy champion, and now has like the Micronesian title that she developed, and that's kind of cool. It'd be nice to see where that goes. And then obviously there's the BOB, the left hand, Miss Fury, Graves, and all that. Like that, come on, that stuff's just fun to read. So really, and anytime they want to be in it, they're going to be in it.
It's going to be interesting moving forward. I definitely am looking forward to hearing what the new champion has to say a week from Thursday night. Moving forward, we're moving into another division that has had a lot of work put in behind it by Jenny Mist and Betsy and Jerry and all the female talent surrounding the Shooting Star Championship. Triple threat, Jerry, Betsy, Jenny. Coming into the match, Jenny did a segment earlier in the show, was to further build this up a little bit. Bobby, you got your 3 ladies. You got Jenny Mist, you got Betsy Granger, you got Jerry Vaden, excuse me. Where were you at with this match and how it progressed?
I was pretty. I liked the read. It was a lot of fun. I think again, everybody put forward their best feet or best foot. Sorry, and I didn't get the pick right, but that's okay because the right person won. The judging was fair. I really, really, kudos to Betsy. She went out and earned this one. She's an awesome role player. She's awesome people too, like OOC, like you pointed out. Even though I'm not allowed to take her to prom, I guess I'm gonna go with TK. But yeah,
Yeah.
congratulations to Betsy on winning the Shooting Star Championship. That's
So,
it's a thing now, but we have to. I want to give some big credit to everybody involved in this match for making that title a big thing. They all came forward. They played their hearts out to give it some credence. Okay. So the next match on the card, was the Shooting Star title, and it didn't disappoint. I was really, really thrilled about it myself. I didn't get the pick right, but the winner of the match was Betsy Granger. I think all three competitors, they did a phenomenal job of elevating the title. The match itself was a very fun read, a lot of good back and forth between all the competitors. Um, I so Chris, what do you think about the match?
I don't think I got the pick right either. We'll go over like the picks here in just a little bit 'cause TK did the research on that for us. I'm sure he's gonna love to give that information when we get there. This was a good read. The storyline coming up to this is what kind of hooked me. I think that Jenny Mist is thing we said it last week did a hell of a job kind of making that title mean something. Um, I think that personally, I think that her title reign ended a little too soon because I think there was more that could have been done to build it up to a bigger kind of deal when as she was the first champion before Jerry got the belt. Um, I when I read the role plays, my mind immediately went to Betsy. I should have never bet against her in the first place. If I did, I can't remember. TK will remind me. What surprised me was at the end of the match, and she just kind of left the belt there and let Miss take off with it. So I know that there's a little bit more to this story, and I may very well get what I want, which would be that Betsy Granger Jenny Mist 1-on-1 with the Shooting Star Championship on the line. Other than that, I mean, it was a solid match. It was a really good read. Benny, what did you think about this? And what are your thoughts about the Shooting Star division itself? It's kind of come into prominence of it in its own right over the last, 3 to 4 months, 5 months.
Yeah, when we came up with that, or I guess I kind of just made it up on the fly. Actually, one day I think I surprised everybody with it, and just sort of dropped it in based on a booking thread. Actually, it was Atara Themis and Jenny Mist going back and forth with each other before a match that they were having, and so we just sort of said, okay, well, we can make it for a title. We'll just make a new title for you. Actually, Atara was the first Shooting Star champion.
That's
So
correct.
she won it, and then she disappeared for whatever reason, and that's when Jenny got a hold of it. But yeah, I think
That is also incorrect, Vinny. It is.
that is. What do you mean?
Yes, Madison Dyson took it from Atara via storyline.
Well, I
And then
wasn't trying to be
Ginny took it.
chronological.
I am.
No, yes, Madison Dyson did have it. What I meant basically was eventually, yes, Jenny Mist had it running up to where we are today. But yes,
That,
I don't want to leave anybody out. Madison Dyson did have it at some point. Hopefully, she's not a Nazi anymore. But for a while, Madison Dyson was a champion with a star. So, really that just came from, look, anybody who knows me kind of knows that I like stupid things. I like dumb things. And I saw this star-shaped belt online, and I was like, I need that. So
A
we just
loss
have to fit.
born.
We got to fit that in somewhere. And then I saw the back and forth with Atara and Jenny, and I thought that was a great opportunity. And yeah, I think these role players, especially running up to Snow Job, really made it bigger than it had been previously. So I think that was a really tough one to judge for me personally. but I do think we ended up with the right winner.
I do, and I think, like I said, I think there's more coming here. Not privy to anything, but just based off of how this ends, it's going to be interesting to see the segments that are going to be coming out for this next cycle of shows revolving around that. So I think there could be more to it. I think there's legs there, and I know that if both of those writers go at it, there could be some magic.
Excuse me,
I wouldn't
Chris,
count Jerry out either.
I had something I wanted to bring up. My favorite shape is the circle, so we're gonna circle back. And Vinny, you mentioned that hopefully Madison comes back. She's no longer a Nazi. Now, there have been a lot of changes that have happened within the Fed since I came on, and back in like I don't want to say our era, but the era where I did come in at, where you were still an active role player, and a lot of people, they shit on that era. Sometimes with its due. Unfortunately, I think that there's a lot of names from that era that get overlooked. Specifically, Luca Artigati, Trax, some phenomenal writers that just aren't with us anymore. I mean, they're alive, but they're just not in the Fed anymore.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yes, yeah. But back in that era, there was really no limit. There was no censorship whatsoever. If you wanted to write about any kind of topic, you could. And for better or for worse, every topic was written about. And some of it was pretty grotesque. I'm not going to go into detail. Like, if you know, you know. If you don't know, you might be able to dig around on the board and find it. But nowadays, in the current state of the XWF, there are limits. There are things that we're just not going to discuss. We're not going to bring them up. They're just in bad taste. What would you consider those limits to be? And how does that enhance the product or just the Fed itself to make it more approachable for better writers?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Rob, first of all. You're right. I mean, at the time you came in, I don't remember exactly what. I think you came in, 2015, 2016, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it was 2015. You were the hard champion, and then you were going into feuding with Doc and Gator. Again, that's what I remember. Oh, the other name that I remember from back then also was Game Girl, my first feud.
Oh yeah. I mean, and all of those talents are great, right? To answer your question though, the reason that the limits are there, and they really are not, I don't think, overly restrictive limits. I mean, some people think I'm an SJW cuck for them. That's fine. I think anywhere you go in e-fedding or anywhere in the world, really, there's going to be certain things that people don't find funny. They don't want to read it. I don't want to read it. Yeah, I mean, there's just certain subjects when you get into overt racism, overt homophobia, things like that, certain words that you just wouldn't really want to throw around. They're offensive to people, and they're damaging to people, and they put people off of the product. And I can tell you that half of the people that we have right now probably would not be in the Fed if those things were still running rampant. So a lot of the reason I did that, made those decisions, which were kind of tough because like you said, I mean, that's kind of what we did, just did whatever. And we were in our isolated corner of the internet. I kind of wanted to expand and open it up and be more out there and get people from, Twitter or Reddit or wherever people are looking for e-feds and say, hey, come check us out. And people were coming in and looking at it and saying, what the fuck is this? I don't want to be a part of that. And then they were going and roasting us and dragging us online. So it was an evolution that needed to happen.
Yeah, I can agree with that sentiment. Sorry to detract from talking about Snowjob, but that was something I wanted to bring up, and I brought it up. I forced it in there. Shoehorned. All right, so
you didn't have to. We could have asked him that at the end. I'm just playing, bro.
I'm sorry.
No, you're all right. Television title. We're getting ready to get into. I mean, I would say the meat and potatoes of this pay-per-view, but it's kind of the entire pay-per-view is kind of been the meat and potatoes. Like this, everyone brought some really good shit. My personal favorite, I think everyone's one of everyone's personal favorites. Artie Green, Charlie Nichols. This match is taking place in was it Inside the Mall of America, or did that change?
I think it changed to the stadium.
did.
Yeah, this was a stipulation that was chosen by Charlie Nichols. It was a match that took place on top of the Xtron in like a glass paned cage.
Yes.
So pretty interesting, kind of innovative, and I definitely dug the stip. I like crazy cages. That's one of the cool things about the XWF.
I'm a big barn. Can we just hug that man?
Barney Green is the spirit animal of the XWF. I mean,
Is he not? I mean, he's amazing.
That sums it up in a nutshell.
I'm so mad that Charlie Nichols beat him. it was Vinny. What was your take on how this one came off?
yeah, I mean, I think it was great to see Barney in that position. I know, and the stip that you mentioned that Charlie picked with the Extron and the glass and everything. I mean, Barney Green is the daddy of violence. That's exactly what he's into. So I know that he was hyped for it.
Yep.
I know Charlie's a great writer. He's a lot of fun for that kind of stuff, and I think it came off really well. And yeah, I mean, I think it really just kind of put a spotlight on Green that hasn't really been there in a while. I mean, dude's been around forever, like forever.
Well, this was a really fun read. If you read it, good on you. And let's not take lightly that it took Charlie all the way to 1 minute left in this match. Barney did some work. Let's not feel bad for Barney because Barney did work.
And let's also point out that Barney pulled double duty.
Yep.
He
already had a match, you know?
Yeah, he already was involved in a match. He won a championship earlier in the night. I think that this was a fun read. I think that both guys, they gave it their all on the boards. I'm really, deep down inside, I'm going to admit I'm a bit of a Charlie mark. The guy, that whole sequence of what happened post-match, he wrote that, and he sent it to me, and he was like just trying to get that going, and that was kind of cool. It was the second time of the night myself and my tag team partner made a cameo. It gave a lot of credence to Bob and our little stable, but that's just shameless self-promoting right there. Reality, it was great writing all around from Charlie, from Barney, leading into the match, for the post-match, and the match itself. A lot of fun to read as well, just because I love it when the match itself and the stipulation becomes a character, and this is one of those instances where the stipulation became one of the characters in the match, and it just brought a dimension to it that made it I don't want to say maybe a little bit more tangible. It just gave it that it brought about that suspension of disbelief that we look for when we watch wrestling.
Right.
So
I think that I liked how I love how it did come down to that little final minute, and it put Barney over a little bit. I think that Charlie, man, for representing Saturday nights, he's kind of doing some things. He's making a little bit of noise, and we talked about it on the last podcast. He's got a tag title opportunity coming up in the near future with Jim Jemison. And while we may look at them as an underdog in that situation, stranger things have happened. How much would the dynamic change if Charlie Nichols was able to parlay all this momentum into a tag title run? He'd have the television championship. He'll have the television championship. He would have the tag team championship. And isn't he the heavy metalweight or the featherweight champion right now too?
I think he is the heavy metalweight, I believe.
I mean, he's rocking 2 belts right now with an opportunity to pull a third.
Yep.
2-belt Charlie. 2-belt Charlie.
I mean, do you think maybe some guys are sleeping on Charlie?
Oh, I did. I slept on Charlie. And I lost. Yeah. Charlie's doing work with that television title. He's putting in everything that he can. He's making that title look good.
Yeah,
I think
coming from a 2-time champion, that's putting him over. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
Well, what I was going to say is Charlie. The reason that I am a Charlie Mark is that he's really immersed himself into the Fed, and he's embraced a lot of the aspects of the Fed, and he's really just. I don't want to say. Well, he has been spreading himself out and feeling the waters everywhere within the Fed, and he's really just. Again, he's embracing the XWF, and kudos to him for doing that. He didn't just up and quit and give up when he had a losing effort. He rolled with it, he sold it, and he kept telling the story. And he's one of those parts of the Fed that really just keeps it moving forward and going. And he's a great hand. And again, I'm a Charlie Mark. This, just everything he did for this sold me on that. I was into him before, but every time that he has a showing, I'm into him more and more. All the love in the world for Barney too. But yeah, kudos to Charlie on this one.
Yeah, Charlie Nichols is great. I mean, anybody who slept on Charlie after reading his effort that he put in against Sarah Lackland for the Universal title, obviously just had it coming. If you were sleeping on him after that, then I don't know what to tell you. The dude really dug deep. He takes feedback. He's really into it. He's passionate about his character and his writing, and he likes to win. So those things usually translate well. As far as your point, translating it, parlaying it into a tag run. I mean, anything could happen, right? I mean, I think he would automatically be seen as an underdog, but that's only because of who the tag champions are right now. I mean, those are guys who are kind of seen as unbeatable.
Yeah, upper echelon, for sure.
But if they did it, that would be great. I mean, what kind of story would that be able to tell? I mean,
A
plus
lot.
just yeah.
Well, you mentioned, a tag title run. The next match that we have on the card is the tag team championships.
You're
And
No, I think
skipping the
it's
hard
the heart. Yeah, there's the heart.
oh, the heart. That's right. I'm sorry. I was scrolling down too far. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was actually about to pitch it to you because it's your favorite championship.
Okay. Well, let's get into it. The Heart Championship match. We had Edgar, Felix Jones, Sean Wilde, Ned Kay. I'm eating crow on this one. I picked Ned. All the credit in the world to Edgar. He came out swinging. He came hitting hard. He's somebody that's been in the Fed for a long time. I know him personally in real life. I've actually, went and hung out with him. Really cool guy. Really, really cool guy. All the credit in the world to him. I'm glad that he won the championship, out of character. In character, again, great effort from those who put forth an effort. I love Sean Wilde. I do have a spot in my heart for Ned Kay. I think that he's still developing and growing, but this was really just Edgar showing up and showing that he's grown and he's here and he knows how to play this game, and he played it well. And the match itself was a good read. I forgot that it was elimination style, so that was as I was reading it and seeing the eliminations happen, I was like, oh, okay. And when it came down to it, just Edgar won it because even though I picked Ned, it's you got to give it to Edgar on this one. Good job on his behalf. I'd like to see what he does moving forward on Wednesday nights as the Heart Champion. Again, you got to carry some storylines when you're holding on to that belt. There's some pedigree to it. I think Vinny was the first person that I ever saw holding it when I came into the Fed. I've held it. Centurion has held it. So many really, really talented writers have held that championship throughout the years, and just to see it go to Edgar, I look forward to seeing what he does with it.
Absolutely. I think you got to start with. I mean, to touch on it, just how impressive Ned has been and has been over the last two pay-per-view cycles. Going back to going to Anarchy and taking on, was it Kenzie, right? I think he beat Kenzie in that 1,000-word area. I think Ned did a phenomenal job as the Heart champion. He carried the title. I believe I picked him too. So when I saw the work, my mind changed almost immediately. I thought that not immediately they did it. Everyone involved role playing wise that did some work, did some pretty good stuff. And with it being the elimination, you had Ned going out second in this case. So almost like our first four way, your champion's eliminated mid match. So you get to build that anticipation of who is going to be the new champion. You know what I mean? Like, so as in a crowd standpoint, the match flow and the match progression and the way that it was written, it told a really good story. What did you think, Benny?
The Hart title match, that was a lot of fun. That was another one that was tight to judge. I listened, the last podcast. I listened to the predictions, and my thoughts when you guys were making this prediction was, how do you choose? Um, I saw it as a total toss up. Really, I didn't know who was going to win. It was really really tight. I think from a character standpoint, you already said Ned's a hell of a guy. Ned's a lot of fun. He was in with us before. Was really green. Um, didn't do really well, but then he kind of took some time off, and I was kind of always in his ear, saying, "Hey, bud, you coming back? Or when can I book you?" Right, on Anarchy again. I was always kind of trying to get him to do it. He wasn't ready, and he wasn't ready. But then, man, when he came back, he really was ready. And he put on some really great performances, wrote some great stories. This match wasn't his, but it could have been. Sean Wilde is really new. I don't know him really well, but I'm getting into it. I thought his storyline with his haunted spider armor was pretty funny. It was pretty cool. But R.L. Edgar, I mean, that guy, like Robbie said, I mean, he's been around a long time. That's a character that's been around for a while, but was always sort of in the background. Never really had any footing underneath of it until now, and that was a really good time for it. And I think it was really well written. It was really good stuff, and obviously he won. So
Okay.
I think you guys pretty much nailed everything you could say about this match. So I'll just
Definitely delivered.
yeah, it
So
delivered.
in the battle of the brands, your warfare, your anarchy, and your savage. We have a new Wednesday. We have a new Heart champion for Wednesday nights. A new champion on Thursday nights in Ruby. Charlie Nichols, the only champion walking in of the three brands that leaves with the brand's top title.
Yep.
Does that put in your eyes, guys? Does that give if you're in a brand war or supremacy? If you're on Saturday nights, aren't you kind of patting Charlie on the back a little bit?
Oh, you're definitely patting Charlie on the back.
yeah, I mean that's exactly the angle I would take if I was Charlie, right? I
Yeah.
mean that's you toot your own horn, you hold up your belt a little higher than the others do because you've held it, you kept it.
We get into it, man. Like again, the show builds, it builds, it builds, it builds, and this is one of the most anticipated tag matches when it was booked and it hit the show. I being a tag guy with Rob the last year, like I was Cataclysm. If you involved Cataclysm in this, it would have been probably the biggest tag match I think in a while that I could remember being a part of. This match delivered. This was, I think, probably super tough to even pick a winner between all the efforts of all six. What made out of character to me really made this super fucking impressive. Like Doc coming in is he's gonna be blazing. Corey coming in, he's gonna be doing some solid shit. That knowing that as your challengers, the game level of the No Good Bastards and the game level of Marf and Lakana, like everyone brought their shit or enhanced themselves in some form or fashion. Vinny, from a owner's perception, and you see these 6 names on the card, and you see the role plays that put up, how fucking happy does that make you to see a division that didn't really have a lot going on, and then boom, you kind of boom it over the last 2 or 3 pay-per-view cycles.
Yeah, I think that's honestly really great because I mean, for as long as I have been around, nobody's, for lack of a better way to put it, nobody really cared about the tag team division. Usually, you get a couple of guys thrown together, and they're just like, "Hey, let's go win the belts, right?" And they'll just hold them forever because there's really nobody else going after it. And now all of a sudden, we got 3, 4, 5, I don't know how many really well established teams that at any moment we could put something together like this. And these 6 particular characters, I mean, that was a beast, man. To try to read all that and figure out who did it better, that's no small feat. Doc DeVille obviously is one of the greatest in my opinion. He's my favorite. I mean, he's beaten my ass multiple times. And I think when you see his name on there, you kind of already just assume that he's going to win. And that's what's great about seeing a real challenge put up there, because when you can put somebody against a name like that and you say, well, maybe not. Like, now you get really interested in it, and it's a lot of fun to read.
Indeed. So before we'll get into the match itself in a minute, the no good bastards. Uh, how are you guys? Like your perception of the role play cycle, and then the match itself. Let's start with Bobby.
Well, in terms of the role play cycle itself, I had an absolute blast. It's for me, it's always just it's better when I'm going up and I know that I've got and I know that I have to bring my A game. Otherwise, there's not going to be any game whatsoever. Then he said it best. Doc is Doc. Like, beating Doc is so rare. Like, I'd much rather have a losing effort against Doc than a winning effort against some other people. Just because I get to read his work and it's custom tailored against my goofy ass. So again, and that's just Doc. Corey, also phenomenal read, great role player, and Lycana, she's a candidate for role play of the month. Lycana was a phenomenal writer, and Marf was also a lot of fun to write against. I would say that this is the most fun I had as a role player in quite some time, and that's no slight against anybody else that I've role played against, in the past, recently, anything like that. But this was one of those things where it was just high challenge, high heat. Let's put it all out there. Let's bring it to the table. And even though I didn't win, I'm not ashamed because Doc did great. Corey did great. They deserve all the credit in the world for winning. Lycana and Marv did great. But and I'm going to say it right now. I had the best partner. And writing for this role play cycle, it's like when I'm writing with TK, it's kind of like, yeah, we're going up against the other teams, but we're kind of like looking at each other's work. And it's like, oh, you did that smack talk, huh? Watch this. And we kind of just try to feed off of each other and, try to outclass each other with that energy. And we just keep each other hyped. So again, TK also made it really, really, he kept me on my toes, kept me motivated too. And just from a role play aspect, this was phenomenal. The match writing itself, I don't know if you want me to get into that yet. I know who wrote the match. Huh?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Get into it. Yeah.
Yeah, the match itself, the writing, again, they get to really go out of their way and play with the tables, ladders, and chairs. Edgar wrote the match, and I definitely patted him on the back earlier for the Hard Championship. But I loved a lot of the spots that were thrown in there. It was just like a wild ride. Like it was a roller coaster. And just seeing everybody got a chance to shine in the match. Everybody got a chance to, get in the big spots, to look strong. And I think it was just an indicator of, he was digging what we were putting out there on the boards too. And you could tell that when you read a match. Like if a match is hot, and you said it yourself earlier, Chris, when you were writing the Anarchy Championship, you wanted to give credence to the people that were role playing in that match by making them look good. I feel like we entertained the hell out of the match writer on this one. So, TK, what do you think?
I think that's right, and I'm really proud to have been a part of this one. Like, this one was good. I had a lot of fun. Everybody involved did really good work, and that gets you more motivated as a opposing writer, right? You want to go at each other, you know. But I'm really proud to be a part of this one. Thank everyone who participated.
Vinny, when you saw this coming together and all the way through to the finished product, how are you viewing the tag team scene right now, and more importantly, how this particular match played out?
Yeah, I think again, the coalescence of all the different teams that are in there now, knowing that there's these three, and then there's also, your Charlie Nichols and Jimson, the DDS. Um, there's also even, Jenny Mist and Serena Hazard out there. There's various other teams that could be made, and all of a sudden you got a real lively division with like 4 or 5 different teams out there that all realistically have a pretty solid crack at it. So like Robbie said, I mean, beating Doc is rare, beating Corey Smith is rare, but they're by no means untouchable. Um, it's fun to see people step up and really try to take it to them. Robbie's been around for a long time. He's a great writer. He's a very particular kind of writer. It was really neat to see how the kind of stuff that him and TK writes could mesh against a really different style from those other guys. So the way that the interplay between them was a lot of fun.
I mean, I hear Bobby talking about Doc, and you talk about Doc, and Doc is, myself, Doc is always brings a shit. But here's the thing: when you're going up against someone as good as a Doc is as a writer, so it always, if you don't go up against somebody better than you, how can you get better?
Yep,
Like,
exactly.
it's one of those situations. So uh, my opportunity to write against Doc at high stakes was like, I looked at it as, this is my one and only shot, because you don't ever know when you're going to get that opportunity again. To know that, and to know that he's kind of interchanging with the tag divisions, and he's doing something. Like, people don't get scared, if you get booked against him. That you got to bring your shit, but that's what he wants you to do. Because if you're not being pushed, then why are you here?
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. That's exactly right. If you're just taking it easy, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's nice to have an easy one every now and then, or to not have to really flex really hard. I mean, it's nice to just kind of write what you want and not have to worry if it's good enough, I guess, is one way to look at it. If you're just trying to tell a story and get something across, but you're not too worried about scoring points against somebody that's a heavy hitter. That's nice sometimes too. But yeah, you want to, and the only way you're ever going to get better is by trying to get better. And, in e-fetting in particular, the way that we get better at doing it is by going up against people who are better at it than we are. It really doesn't get a lot better than Doc and Corey. So, I mean, those, like I said, I've gone against him multiple times. He and I actually joined at about exactly the same time in 2014, and he basically immediately spent a year just rubbing my face and shit. So it was a lot of fun. Definitely made me better, and I think Corey's done the same thing for some guys. I think Robbie's done the same thing for some guys. I think TK is doing it for people now. And now we've got, the newer guys in Lycana who's getting a lot of fans and getting a lot of heads turned to their work. Marf is another one that is, just getting a lot of notice out there. And I think it's kind of great to watch that cycle happen over and over again, where here people come in, they start learning and adapting and improving by going up against people that, that others would say are better than them.
Right, and Mark just came in at high
Hasn't
stakes,
been
right?
very long.
Yeah, so he's here within a pay-per-view cycle, and he's thrown in there with the quote unquote big boys.
Yeah,
there's not a whole lot of learning curve in for shows. So I felt like, personally, and this is not a slight in any way, shape, or form. I felt like coming in that Marv may have been a little bit overmatched, and I think that he was, but I think that he rose his game up. And if he continues to write and bring that game up, he has got just as good a shot at anything that he wants to take. And I think that Lacana like really opened some eyes with this cycle. And I really think that there's some bigger things that can happen there. With them No Good Bastards, this was the first time that they got to collab together. I'll be upfront and honest. I felt like on an entertainment standpoint, I was more entertained by the No Good Bastards. But I think that on an individual standpoint, Doc nailed this, and the right team went over in the very end. But it was definitely, it could not have been an easy decision with everything that was brought to the table. And now I pose you this question because we see how good this situation was. Imagine how much better it's going to be if they get into a program and get into a story with some of these teams.
yeah, that's always the goal. I mean, and you're a story guy, Chris. We talk about it, plenty of times behind the scenes. I'm a story guy myself. And we haven't really seen a lot of tag team stories, right? Cataclysm was a good one. Before that, Apex was a good tag team story. But it's always kind of just been one story being told at a time. Whereas now we're seeing a few happen simultaneously, and that's really awesome.
Yes, it speaks to the growth of the division, and the division is only as good as the champions. And right now, those champions are interchangeable. Thad, Corey, Doc. They're going to be dangerous. Uh, what the cool thing about this is kind of like the thing with Cataclysm. Whoever knocks them off, it's going to make that title change only mean that much more. Now it's just a
Yep.
matter of who can get their game to that level. We roll right from the tag titles. We get into semi-main event. It's the Extreme title. It's Alias. It's Reggie Estrada. It's Extreme Rules. Number 2 belt in the company. Spoke on it on the last podcast on just how impressive Alias has been since his return or since his debut. Excuse me, at High Stakes. Here's another one. Mark, one match before, same debut, same pay-per-view. Alias, same pay-per-view. And here they are, next pay-per-view cycle. They're both in marquee matches challenging for championships. This Extreme title match, I thought it was a pleasant read for what it was. I think that the right man went over, obviously. I think everybody called it. What shocked me, though, and kind of surprised me, was the post-match. I did not see Reggie attacking Alias. So
Yep.
where do you guys think this program goes? If anywhere, where do you think this goes with Alias and Reggie? And where do you think the Extreme division goes moving forward? Now that we've got a very dangerous champion at the focal point.
In my opinion, I think one of the hardest titles storyline with, just because of its 24/7 nature, is that Extreme Championship. Because you got to be on your toes, on the board, ready to kick out at a moment's notice, or at least every 12 hours. And at the same time, if you want to cook up a burner and have like everybody engage in what the story is for that championship, the story already kind of writes itself. You're trying to hold on to it for X amount of weeks, defend it X amount of times, get the briefcase, and then try to chase down the Universal Championship. That is the built-in storyline with it. If you're doing anything else with it, like kudos. Like that is just icing on cake. The match itself, good. It was a fun read. Again, top to bottom, this whole card was fun to read. But I wasn't really surprised by the outcome. I think I picked Alias, and that's no slight against Reggie. He definitely did his work on the boards, both role playing and in kicking out nonstop. Like he didn't up and give up at the last minute because of any reason whatsoever. Um, I'm interested to see what happens moving forward, because Alias is. I brought up immersion before with Charlie Nichols. Alias is immersed into the Fed, and seeing if there's any storyline that comes out like regarding this belt besides the built-in one. It's a wait and see thing. I'm hopeful because Alias, again, very fun member of the Fed. Like I had some fun with them on the Extreme Championship boards, as you do. And yeah, I'm optimistic. That's the best way to put it. I'm optimistic to see what happens moving forward.
Okay.
TK, what do you think?
I think I loved the match with the attack at the end. Alias will be a strong champion, but it comes down to 24/7 boards. Can he kick out every 12 hours? We'll find out. Seen strong champions lose them on the boards before.
This is very true, Robert.
Yeah, no. If there's one person who over the last month or two that I've been really impressed with, it's got to be Alias, right? I mean, from the first time I read an Alias RP, I was like, oh, this guy's going to be really good if he sticks around, if he really wants to, right? So my first concern is always is going to just show up and leave because that's just usually what happens in EFEDs. But my opinion was pretty much solid right away. I was like, this guy's good. He's going to go places if he gets put in the right position. Reggie, I don't know how you wouldn't see that attack coming at the end. I mean, Reggie's a thug. Reggie's thugging and thugging from day one. So I mean, it fits Reggie Estrada to a T. I think it would have been interesting. We didn't really book the Extreme title properly leading up to this because we didn't really have any other defenses from when Reggie won it. And I think that's kind of a detriment that, we screwed Reggie over a little bit because he held it for a good little while. But, you mentioned the briefcase and all that earlier. Part of that is you have to defend it a certain amount of times, and he never got to defend it. And he's not the sort of guy who's going to come to us and say, hey, man, do this for me. He's going to just go with the flow and do what he's told. And that was our fault. We kind of screwed up and didn't book him properly. But he did all those kickouts. He's been Mr. 24/7 for several weeks now. And those are really one of my favorite things to read is when somebody really gets creative in an Extreme title pin. Very often people just go in there and say, oh, so-and-so hit so-and-so, and they're pinned 1, 2, 3, and the reply is just a kick out.
Like Schoolboy.
Yeah.
But, if you look back at some of the people who have really had fun with it and put some effort into writing up something creative in either direction for the pin or the kick out, like that's some of the best stuff that we do. And that title can be a lot of fun to hold, but it can also be a pain in the ass.
We were talking about this is on the last podcast. You can tell where you stand in the XWF if you're the Extreme Champion. If you're loved, you're not really pinned often, but if you're hated, you're trolled like a motherfucker. Can you see that happening?
Yeah, it's funny because anytime somebody new wins it, immediately, like as soon as that show goes up, somebody goes and tries to pin them, right? It's like they're testing them. They're going to see, is this the sort of guy who's really going to log on here every 12 hours and make sure that I can't take it? Or is this guy going to get sucked like immediately? Because some people do get suckered, and they usually get pretty pissed about it. But so far, I think he's had a couple, right? He's had 2 or 3 kickouts, so Alias has done good there as well.
I think it's only going to get Alias is going to go as far as Alias wants to go.
Yeah,
I'm calling it now. I think that this guy is a threat. I think that if he's kind of the master of his own destiny right now.
Well, let's put it out there, Chris. Can you beat him or not?
Oh,
I don't know. It would be one of those things to where it depends on where I'm at with whatever story I'm telling at that time, just like we're about to get into in a minute.
No, that's wishy-washy. That's real wishy-washy, Chris.
No, it's not. It's honest. I don't know if I can beat him. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if I've ever been put against him at any point in time about my EFED career. In character, yeah, man, I can beat him.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, I'm really I was going back to him real quick and going back to kind of tie a bow on the Extreme Title division. I think that the world is going to be Alias's oyster, and if I'm just very curious to see what direction he goes with the character moving forward, and I definitely want him to get a little bit of revenge on Reggie for that post match. I would just like I'd love to see him rip his throat out and just destroy him on a show. My thing is it's with that built-in storyline, right? That those 5 title defenses, because you get those 5 title defenses under your belt, and depending on if you're what kind of champion you want to be, you can get that in a month and a half.
Yeah,
Well, 2 months.
yeah, yeah. I think
You can get that with a pay-per-view cycle.
yeah, yeah. I think Alias and Reggie. Um, I talk about I like going up against people that are spicy. I want that challenge. I want the strong writers. It's iron tempering iron. Right now, my focus is being that tag team competitor. Got a wonderful husband and a partner.
He's too kind.
Strictly for but if I were in the singles division right now, I would definitely go up like, hey, I want a match with Reggie. Hey, I want a match with Alias. Those guys, they're great. They're doing well. They're doing the right things. They're making strides, and there's nothing but upside for both of them.
Well, we get into it, man. We get into the main event. I'll turn it over to you guys first. I'll go last. Vinny, this will be a great opportunity for you to kick it off. This is your first big main event of the first pay-per-view of the year. What are you thinking?
I was afraid of it. I was terrified of this match because I knew that you and I knew that Thad were not going to make it easy, right? I think you each cranked out seven or 8 promos. I think it was 7 each. They were all probably in the vicinity of 5,000 or 6,000 words. So I basically had to just set aside like half a week to read these. So thanks for that. But it was worth it, honestly, because when somebody's really trying and really crafting something good, which you guys did over the last 6 months, when you get to the blow off, to the payoff at the end of it, like it's going to be great, and it has to be, and on our end of the thing, we have to hold up our end of the bargain and make sure that the payoff meets what you guys fed us. So hopefully we ended up doing that. I think the match was pretty great. I think there was a lot of discussion as far as judging and being really, really nitpicky, because you really have to be nitpicky when you have a match involving guys who are really equal, right? You take somebody who's really good at one aspect and somebody who's really strong in another aspect, and how do you decide which one is better overall? You have to just really, really get into it, get into the weeds, and say, okay, well, this little thing here and this little thing there, and it was a headache, but it was a good headache. So I think it was a great story. I think it had the right ending. I think Chris Page, with his his third attempt in the last year or so, when he said he's either going to win it or he's never going to try again. I mean, I think you start rooting for him in that case, but then you read the promos and you're like, no, fuck this guy. He's a piece of shit. He doesn't deserve it. It was a great story. It was a great payoff, and I think everybody walked away happy. I think even Thad coming up on the losing end, I don't think he would have had it any other way. I think he loved it.
Bobby.
Yeah, I mean, you can't understate the effort both of you guys put in. You put in the work. Like Vinny said, you guys wrote novellas, each of you. Between the two of you, it's made for TV mini series. There's a lot of content and it's quality. Excuse me. That said, I'm not gonna. It goes without saying, you guys know how to bring it. You guys know how to role play. You're definitely experienced. You have tenure in doing this, and it showed. The match itself, I think I called it on the last podcast. Like, this was the match I was looking forward to. Is like, after all of the big attraction matches with all of the crazy stipulations, extreme, extreme, extreme. reading this match was like reading like Flair Steamboat. Like it was just like that 5-star classic. You know, the writers of this match, this was a wrestling fan's match. You know, if you love good, solid, like great wrestling matches without gimmicks, without frills, anything like that, you know, this was your Savage Steamboat. Like, and in all fairness, Thad was Steamboat in this because he was the face. But it was a great read, great read. You know, it was the best culminating effort for this whole card, where all the matches were just again so much fun to read, and you guys brought it on the boards. Kudos to you and kudos to Thad. Um, you know, congratulations on winning the big one. You're definitely somebody who's you're going to be a credit to the Universal Championship. I've said it before, I'll say it again. When you're the Universal Champion, you almost have to do as much storytelling, and you're almost a GM. Like you're on that like next plane where you have to drive the story, and really help, you know, guys like Vinny, guys like Theo, and everybody else behind the scenes in coming up with what's going to happen next. So I'm really interested to see what you're going to do, you know, coming up next, you know, because we all know, Chris, that you love those good storylines. Whatever is cooking for the next pay-per-view, it's just going to be a pleasure to read. So congratulations. Glad to see it. Look forward to what's coming next. TK, what do you think?
I think this was my favorite match, but it's probably going to be everyone's because I mean the two guys who wrote the match, which were Duke and Chris Page, they babied this thing. They made this thing really work. Uh, Great match. They both put in a lot of work. We went over pretty much everything at this point about it, but I can't understate how well that match read. Guess it
It's
goes to you now, Paige.
it's it's really weird, you know. Like I had first of all, let me backtrack. Thad and I put a lot. Everybody knows we put a lot into this. Like we just did, and we didn't expect for it to get as big as it did. And it was like, you know, there were a lot of moving parts that got it to where it was. Like, you know, I touched on it earlier. Like, what if Alias had gotten a sixth role play up at high stakes, and the whole dynamic of the main event of the battle royal changes? You know, I'm not saying that it would have, you know, changed the outcome of the Universal Championship match or the Universal of that leaving with the belt, but it very well could have. And if it did, then we're still here and we're still in the same spot and we're still doing what we do. But the fact that Thad was able to walk out with the Universal Championship and it made this match a championship match, it's really like a sense of accomplishment. You know, you try and do something for so long, and yes, like I told my husband this. I was like, you know, I feel like such a nerd because I've accomplished something that really in the real quote the real world it doesn't even matter. Like it's totally irrelevant. This is a game, right? But to now accomplish that goal of being able to hold the Universal Championship. You know, throughout my career, I've only challenged for that was the fifth time. The third singles match, I had an opportunity way back in the day opposite James Raven and Ranma Santome. And then there was another opportunity at high stakes. The match was it was great. Like we kicked it back and forth. I think that we tried to take everybody on a ride. So when you say Savage and Flair, Savage and Steve, then that's what we wanted, and then that obviously means that it translated right. I think that the ride that we went on in the match, leading into Paige kissing Thad, reversing what happened at Relentless, and then you have the Beast persona of CCP emerges, and the Beast persona is the one that actually beat Thad, not the Paige persona. There's a lot of different things that can happen there, and then you get into outside of just how good the match was, the fallout, the Bob parade. We got, this alliance with CCP and Bob that just came out of nowhere, which there's a story to, and we're in the midst of telling that. Then you've got the tail end and the hook of the show. Somebody says they know what I did on December 23rd. I don't know what I did on December 23rd other than show up and tag with Barney Green. But there's accusations being made. What's going to happen here? Do you think that the show left on a solid hook for the groundwork that's about to be laid for this next adventure we're about to go on?
I think it did. I mean, I think you tied the bow on one story with Paige and Thad, which obviously there can always be other wrinkles added later. But I mean, the overarching theme that we've seen for the last 6 months, we could say we could put a cap on that. It laid the groundwork for what's next. Reading the promos, seeing the issues with Maine, the old teammate with Cataclysm and all that. Who knows where that's going to go? And now what you just mentioned, the December 23rd allegation. I mean, who knows, right? I mean, we don't know where that's going to go. I had the exact same thought actually when I saw that. I was like, what the hell happened on December 23rd? So I don't know. You don't know.
He
I'd like to
didn't
know
do
who
it.
does know. Yeah, somebody knows what you did last summer.
Somebody knows.
Well, the question I have, and this might be just to share a little insight with everybody. How do you prepare and set up something like that for like the big post match? I know what you did last December 23rd. You got that hook in there for the next storyline. How do you set something like that up without knowing if you've won the match yet?
Yeah, I think you generally say this is what I'm gonna do if I win. I mean, I get either way. You could have told the same thing either way. I don't think the title really comes into it. Honestly, the story's there either way.
Either way, in this situation, the next logical step. So we know the story that I'm telling, and we know that there are pieces of this story that is actually verbally out there, and there are pieces of this story that is internal dialogue. So say that to say, whether I left with the belt or I did not leave with the belt, this piece of the story that's being told was going to happen. If I got beat by Thad, there was going to be a spot where he and I were going to shake hands. I was going to raise his arm in the air. He was going to give me center stage, and you have the same outcome.
Gotcha.
The only thing that would have changed is the Bob parade would not have been in effect. It would have been the same concept.
Now I kind of wish you lost.
It would have been. I see what you did there. I see you, Vinny. I see you. But you get this. We would have gotten the same piece to the equation. Just there would not be a belt involved. And I'll just be perfectly honest with you. What's to say that we get to March Madness and I even have the fucking belt? Here's the deal. Like this is in all honesty. Like I could lose tomorrow. And I would be okay because I accomplished the goal that I wanted to accomplish. Whether it's a day, a month, a week, a year, doesn't matter. I can, regardless of how long my reign is, if it ends tomorrow, I could end my writing career with this character with a stamp on it because I did everything I wanted to do. It doesn't.
The reason I wanted to ask is because, again, you're a great storyteller, and just sharing that insight with a little bit of everybody, so that way everyone can, start to develop that thought process and seeing what your process is. Like, again, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
If reality is this, and I think Vinny, you can kind of dig this a little bit too because we're storytellers and this is what we do. So when I'm working with my character, yes, I'm worried. I'm focusing on what I'm doing right now, but I'm also planting the seeds for what I'm going to do next. Because, hindsight 2020, you don't always have a Thad that you can work 6 months with.
Yeah,
And
100%.
then you have people that you think that you can work with, but then something happens and they become unreliable. You want to have something to fall back on as that with your character, because and I look at it from a different perspective too. Like, yes, there's the role playing side, but I look at the TV side as well. Like, on TV, how will this play, and what can I do next to keep the wheel moving in case something falls off? Am I right, Vinny? Like, do you see things from that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I always did when I was more heavily actively writing. I tried to do things in a long form, a long term thing. It's kind of like, I don't know how many guys here really used to watch the X-Files, right? But the X-Files was a great show. It was one of my favorites, and it had a long overarching theme, but it also had what they would call like monster of the week episodes, right? Where maybe those didn't really have anything to do with the overall storyline, but they served their purpose for that week. And so you have those as a role player as well, where it's like, okay, so this, what I'm doing this week, what I'm going to write this time, maybe it's not as relevant to the overarching theme, but it's there. But you're always trying to plant the seeds, you're always trying to develop, you're always trying to decide what you're going to do next time at the same time that you're doing this time. Because otherwise, you're kind of dead ending yourself, you're painting yourself into a corner, and next time is going to roll around and you're not going to know what the hell to do.
Always good to have the plan, to have some sort of backup plan. And that's how my mind works, and that's how I operate. Now, I will tell you this. I'll tell you guys this too. So I went to sleep Sunday night at like 10:45. And the results went up at 11:10. When I woke up Monday morning, I had a text message from Thad at 11:15 that said, "Hey man, results are up." And I had not read them at that point, and I got up and I read them that morning, and I was shocked that I was leaving with the championship. I mean, that match could have went either way. And I responded to him that morning, and I was like, "Hey man, and I told him like personally, thank you for taking the time to like tell the story with us and with me and with the XWF and sharing it with everybody, because it had the potential to be really good, and it turned out to be really great. There's just a lot. There's a lot that I can't give enough kudos to Thad. In character and out of character. He's
You're
a
telling me
super.
that you gave Thad Duke your phone number, is what you're telling me.
Duke's got my number, man.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, I had it. Well, maybe, kind of, but not really. He's a good kid. He's a good guy. Not really a kid, but
All right.
that ties the bow on Snow Job, though.
Yeah.
I think this show was from top to bottom, man. Wow is what I said to start with, and wow is kind of where I have to end it. I mean, overall, as a Fed in general, like, how can you not be patting everybody on the back, saying good fucking job?
No, it was definitely great from top to bottom. Everybody had a great time. It had a great response. I mean, I think I posted on there as well. We ended up with 79 promos written for an 11 match card, which is outstanding. Way too much reading for anybody to do. So I doubt there's anybody out there who read all of them. I read a lot of them, and they were all good. So that was pleasant to see. Obviously, kudos to Chris Page. We've been jerking him off for 20 minutes now, but let the man get jerked off.
I'll give you a good money shot.
Yeah, and again, thank you guys for just expatiating on the fact that how to tell the story. It's really and my favorite shape's a circle. We're going to circle back. A lot of what makes this card so great is the fact that we did it as a community. We all contributed. We're all giving credit to each other there, and we're all playing off of each other rather than throwing tantrums or insisting that our creative values are better than anybody else. And really, I think moving forward, we got a bright future as a Fed. And I think that 2021, it's going to be a big year. On that note, I had another question for you, Vinny. I saw something on Twitter, and maybe you can explain this to me because I have no clue. And I'm sure there's some people in the Fed that really are just in the weeds regarding what this is. But in May, um, Splat will be coming to the XWF. So my
Splat,
question is two-parter. What is Splat specifically, and what impact do you think it's going to have on us as a Fed? Because it looks like it's something it ties together the e-Feding community en masse. Like that's the only thing that I've like gleaned from it so far. So yeah, go ahead and just explain us what Splat is, and just the effect that you feel it's going to have for us as a Fed.
Yeah, Splat's fun. If you check out there, we actually have a link to them on our homepage down there towards the bottom by the Twitter feeds. You can see they're kind of got their fingers in everything. They have eFed stuff. They do eMMA with the GCC, the Global Championship stuff. They do like TV shows. They do movies, all from like a role playing perspective. So you can, role play. I believe Sean Warstein is in a couple of their things in Atara Themis as well, where they're kind of role playing here's their characters as professional wrestlers from the XWF, but now they're also acting in a movie, and it's kind of cool. They have their eFed championship, their multiversal championship, I believe is what they call it, and they go around to different feds here and there and defend it. And so the guy asked me if I want to do it. He's a pretty cool guy. He's real dedicated to getting his product out there. So I was all over it. So all I really had to do is pick whoever it is going to go for it, and we'll see what happens with it. What they can do for us, I think, is obviously exposure, because they've got a different audience than we have. But they'll tune into us to see what happens with Splat. It's actually in April, not May. But yeah, that audience, those eyes will come onto us that previously weren't on us, and I think that's a win-win.
Can we get a podcast exclusive of who you're picking?
No, I don't know yet.
Darn. I tried, guys. I did.
I really don't like. It's funny because when I'm tweeting that, like, oh man, like who's he gonna pick? What's he gonna do? Like, I really don't know. I mean, I have some options. Obviously, because it's so angled and it's mostly like a Twitter thing. Splat is more of a Twitter thing. So I kind of want to make sure it's somebody who has that kind of presence and who's kind of all over the social media like that, because that's what's going to really make it work. But there's like a few guys that'll really work for it. I think Betsy really wants it. So she's nice to me.
I'd splat Betsy too.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean that's probably harassment. So I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, you can't. You're the employer.
I want to take her to prom.
No, it's not happening. All right, listen. We've got a couple of questions. Let's go ahead. We'll get to those. First of all, DK. So, do you have anything that you want to ask Vinny before we get into the handler questions that we've got on the site?
No, but I will make one comment about the main event. Somebody on Twitter said hell has frozen over. Now, I don't know if I should put this handler's name out there, Sean Warstein. So your name's been said twice, so you can be happy. All right.
He's never
Now
happy.
I know, but it's worth the try. But now we can go. That's 3 times.
All right. Jerry asked Vinny. She's got a two-parter. First of all, it says, "How's Jerry's gimmick turned out in your eyes?"
I think it's been great. I think the left hand stuff with Jerry has been a real benefit to the Jerry character. She had a run previously, mostly on Anarchy. She was actually the Anarchy champion. She took it from Ruby and lost it back to Ruby. So I always knew that the writing potential and ability was there. But there was, I don't want to say a shallowness, but there was something kind of missing. And I think the turn that's happened now with, Lycana and the left-hand stuff has really benefited Jerry.
This is for everybody. Vinny, we'll start with you. What's your dream match? Who would you like to see in the XWF? What would be your marquee attraction?
I mean, I said earlier that I'm a big mark for Docteville, right? So I mean, there are a lot matches with him that I think could be great. There's another guy named Gator who is always one of my favorites. He could have a great match with anybody. Um, it's there's way too many to pick just one thing from, right? But I do think that if we were to do like a Docteville versus an engineer, that could be that could be pretty spectacular. I think that would be great.
Huge marquee.
I'd buy a ticket for that one.
Bobby, your dream match in the XWF. If you could pick one, if you could book it, who would it be?
Dream match. Personal dream match, or for me, or for just in general.
Your dream. Yeah, you.
Me, World War X. Just get a World War X going somehow, some way, by hook or by crook. It's every year I bring it up to Vinny, like, hey, how do we get World War X going?
We almost did it.
Yeah, we almost. And who knows if we have if Bob keeps doing what Bob is doing, maybe, just maybe, it could be Bob versus the world. I don't know. I think that would be fun. I like the big team aspects because it keeps me a little bit more engaged. Like when I'm going one-on-one, sometimes I'll admit I have some difficult times like focusing and just reining myself back into the Fed and contributing something because it's just my ass on the line. But as soon as I have like a partner, and again, all the credit in the world to TK, the rest of Bob, for keeping me engaged for the past 6 months, with the exception of December where I had my own shit to deal with. My dream match would be that just massive entire Fed, everybody versus everybody. Two teams split down the middle. Let's see how it goes. I know it'd probably be a huge pain in the ass for you, Vin, and probably for Theo and everybody that had to judge it, just because you'd have to read every single little role play. But and judging that thing, I wouldn't even want to. That would baffle my mind. Like I can't. I tried my hand at GMing. I'm terrible at it. So, that's my dream match. TK, what about you?
Me, I would like to see Raven versus Doc. That's something I would like to see.
James Raven?
Yep.
Yeah, that could be fun.
That could be real fun.
It's funny that I mean, obviously Doc's in the mix. Is that my mind went to, and I don't even know if this has already happened or not, but I would love to see Warstein versus Doc.
I don't think
I could book it.
The thing about Doc, and the reason that he keeps coming up is because he was sort of out of it for so long, right? He only just kind of recently got full time back involved. So for like the last couple of years, spanning the time that all the old heads like the Chris Pages and the Fuzz Warsteins and that, he wasn't there. So none of that has happened. So those could all be really cool.
Yeah, I do. I think that those would be some great matches down the line. If we could make them happen, we could make them happen.
Rob, you'd be happy to know, Rob, that like the World War X came really, really close to happening, like right now.
I heard it was a cunt hair away.
Yeah, it was. A couple of things fell through. We had, because something like that big, we need to have some people from outside kind of come in to fill up some spots. We do have a pretty sizable roster, but I still think to make it even bigger, you have like a stable war kind of thing. And we were going to have some guys from the UGWC. We're going to have some guys from the GCWA. And it just didn't work out because that's the sort of thing that you have to book that for the entire cycle from, one pay-per-view to the next. And it has to be like everything's dedicated to that. And we just ran out of time.
Yeah. I mean, again, like the logistics behind it, like, again, just baffled. But I think it'd be a lot of fun to do. And there are some people from outside the Fed I'd love to see come in, like specifically Sloan from GCWA. She beat me in Wrestle Stock. I think I'm getting that right. And seeing her show up in the XWF would be a treat. Plus, of course, you get Doc would be in the mix by default. And again, I think this episode we can't talk enough about how awesome Doc is, and I won't stop.
Alright.
Plus, the other thing I'd want to do in World War X is probably write a whole story arc involving Super Mario Brothers erotica. I think that would just go over great.
Yeah, that's my favorite stuff to read. Yeah.
All right, Corey asked. This is excuse me for Vinny. What's the best and the worst parts of running the XWF?
Ugh, okay. Well,
2 questions for you. That would be the first one.
all right. Well, the best, obviously, I mean this, right? I mean everybody kind of hanging out together. It's actually been a pretty big part of my life for like 6 years, I guess. Almost, yeah, 6.5 years. The XWF has been a daily part of what I do. From coming in as a noob who, role played in the 90s and the early thousands and kind of got back into it, rising through the ranks of little shows to bigger shows to championship shows, and then kind of transitioning into the management and then ownership role. So it's been a big evolution, and all of it has its pluses and its minuses. The pluses for where I'm at now is because I get to kind of just watch everybody else run that same evolution, and that's really cool. Um, the negative is really just making people lose. I say this a lot. I really it sucks that people have to lose these matches. Like winning is great, but usually the people who lose, they barely lost. It just sucks that they have to lose it all.
I understand being in those shoes and having to, and it doesn't happen all the time, but it does. You have to answer those questions like, why did I lose? Why did I get it? What can I do better? There's all kinds of stuff. I could totally see that.
Yeah, I mean, like take Lycana for example, who has, I don't think Lycana has won a match, but here we're talking about how great Lycana's stuff is and how much we love reading it, and it's like role play of the month once and might be again, but not a single win. Like that's a shitty position to be in, but it doesn't mean that she's bad. It just means that she wasn't the best that day.
It does not mean under any circumstances that she cannot be the best on any day. I think
Right.
I think we're just scratching the surface with her. She's like with me right now, like as far as like the new crop from like high stakes and going into high stakes and a little bit further. Lycana and Alias are the 2 that I'm watching the most.
Yeah.
And I'm not missing a role play from them because there's a lot there and there's a lot that can be there. And you're right, it does suck to be in a position where you haven't won a match, but the fact that not this, I don't want to come across as a dick or a douchebag, but the fact that you're in the conversation speaks volumes in its own right. You know what I'm saying? Makes sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And in my position, the GM, the administrative position, and we look at it as, do we want to throw these guys a bone? Do we want to give them something just to kind of, here's one that we know that you'll win and it'll get your confidence up or something like that? Or going back to what we talked about earlier, do we want to really challenge you and force you to get even better? And that's where I think Lycana's at.
I agree. I think that's a perfect analogy. Second part of Corey's question, and this is a really good one. This drew my attention. If for some reason that the Price Lane era were to end, what would you want to see happen to the XWF? Would you shut it down, or would you entrust it to someone else, or what would you do if you were put in that situation, Benny?
Yeah, I wouldn't shut it down. I mean, I'd want somebody to keep going with it. It was there before I was, right? So it wouldn't really feel right for me to kill it. Now, obviously, it might go into hibernation if there's nobody that's willing to take it on because, I mean, there can be some work involved in it. There's cost involved with it. And I rely heavily on like the GM staff. So trying to put that onto somebody else who maybe wouldn't have that same support team, that could be a lot of work. So I would prefer to see it keep going. I don't really see me walking away from it anytime soon, though.
You sound like you're heavily invested, which is always good because feds can open and close at a drop of a dime, right? Like it happens. But when you have a team that's dedicated to like giving you the outlet, like you give me the outlet to tell stories, give me the outlet, you give all of us an outlet to do all of that. So it's good to know that your head is, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
That makes it even that much more fun to write for you and to be able to assist wherever you need help at, as far as on a match writing standpoint.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm in it. I'm here for as long as I can be here. So I mean, I'm an old man and I might drop dead. Um, but so maybe I should come up with a contingency plan.
getting that age, man. About that. Mark is in next. His question with your piece of it is if you could have a one-off match with anybody on the current roster, who would it be and why?
If I could,
If you could, yes, sir.
I mean, I've had matches with most of them already. I'm 1-0 against Duke, which I will bring up anytime I can. I beat James Raven pretty handily, I might add. Beat Robbie. I never faced TK. That could be fun. Obviously, you're the Universal Champion, so that could be a lot of fun. But holy shit, like I don't know if I have that kind of writing in me, and I know that you'd make me put down like 10,000 words, and I just don't know if I could do it. That would be the same thing for like a Robert Maine or an Engineer. Those guys are the big guns. So those would be the ones if I wanted to really put myself out there and say, hey, I'm gonna go against the guys that I say are the best. Those would be the option. I would probably lose all of those matches.
I want to take this question and I want to direct it towards Bobby. Like as of right now on the current roster, who would you want to square off against? Whether one-on-one or tag, doesn't matter.
Well, one-on-one, Alias. I think Alias would be a lot of fun for me where I'm at right now. He's got a lot of promise. He's got a lot of talent, and I've never faced him before. But again, I am that. I'm focusing on being a tag team specialist right now. I'm loving working with TK. I'm loving building up a tag division within the XWF. So maybe a rematch with Doc. It's always a pleasure to go up against him. If it's fresh talent, um, shoot, I don't know if Alias has a tag team partner in mind. That'd be cool. Um, I think doing more against Lycana, having a return match there would be a lot of fun. And there's Pigs back. We never closed that out.
The
So
motherfuckers.
yeah. So closing that out and having Bourbon versus Pig, and if he gets a tag partner, it'll be them no good bastards against Pig and somebody. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So I know that's not concrete, but I'll take whatever you got, boss. But yeah, like there's a couple names out there that I think would be a blast role play against. But focusing on the tag division, it's almost a step up. We can, hopefully we tell another good story.
Now, see, because I think Rob versus TK would actually be really great. Yeah.
We're tagging togetger.
Okay.
We don't want to
that
do
makes it
that.
better.
That's true.
And
Maybe.
spoiler alert, 2023.
TK, if you could have a one-off with anybody on the roster,
Oh
tag
man.
match, singles match, doesn't matter. Who would you do? Who would you want?
Tag match or rematch. Singles. Robert Maine. I would like to go up against Robert Maine. He would shred me, but it'd be so much fun.
I mean, judging by what I've read in the last week or two, that's got to happen, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. We don't know what you're talking about.
I would love that. That's what I would love.
If I had to take on a one-off with anybody on the current roster, so many people that I am going to work with. Like it's going to happen. It's just a matter of and stuff in proper place. Definitely gonna work with Corey at some point. If I'm gonna work with Doc at some point. I would love to have my one-off be a tag team rematch with Robert Maine and Cataclysm against Thaddeus Duke and Doc, only because I feel like you could beat us once, but I don't think that you could beat us again. And I
Yeah, I don't
think
want
that
to
it
judge
would
that.
be. I wouldn't want to put any. I don't want anybody to go in that position because it's not going to be fucking easy, and it would be a really great rematch. I feel. The question from Alias coming up. Vinny, who would you rather lose the ability? Would you rather lose the ability to speak or the ability to read?
Oh, that's easy. I'd give up the ability to speak any day. My mouth does nothing but get me in trouble. I don't really even enjoy talking to people. I sound like Kermit the Frog. But I love to read. I read all the time. I'm an English major, have a creative writing degree from the University of South Florida. So, yeah, take my voice away any day.
TK,
What was the question?
would you rather lose the ability to speak or the ability to read?
Trick question. TK can't read.
I was about to say this is all speech to text, so you're welcome.
Bobby.
Same answer. It's debatable whether or not I can already read, but damn, do I have a lovely voice.
I can't argue
I'd
that.
have to lose. I would have to lose the ability to speak too, because I do have a mouth that will get me in trouble, and I like to read, so we'll do that. The next question we got is from Heaven to Betsy. That's going to be Betsy Granger. Vinny, what outside talent would you bring in for a one-off? And then expanding on that, would you book them against? Would you book them against, and what style match would you put them in? If you can bring somebody in from outside, who you got? Who would you book them against, and where would you put them?
You know, there's a lot out there. I've seen a lot of stuff in different e-feds over the last couple of years. Some spent some time in the UGWC, like Rob did in the wrestle stock. There's some good folks there. Sloan Taylor's definitely one of them. Sebastian Everett Bryce is another one that's heavily tied in. There's a lot of good talent in that UGWC brand. There's someone named Angie Vaughn that would be fantastic. There's I believe their current champion is Johnny Bone Crusher's guy, Hide Yamazaki. That's a lot of fun to read. That's like a real Robbie Bourbon style writer. So I think that could be a lot of fun. There's also just some headaches out there that I probably wouldn't want to bring in, even though that they are really good writers, and I'm not going to name those names. But as far as what matches, I mean, most feds out there are kind of are like a one role play per show writing cycle. So I think it would be kind of a shock to anybody to even have to do more than one. That right there could already make it problematic. But as far as like match style, I mean, whatever they want to do.
Who would you book them against?
Well, I'd have to book them against the best, Chris. I'd have to put them in the ring with you, right?
Man, I appreciate that. You made my day with that answer. I teed that one up for you perfectly.
The ego has been stroked, and he is happy.
Yes.
Yeah, he DM'd me and told me to say him.
Exactly. I sure did. He'll screenshot it for you later, guys. There's a second part to this, which this is a really good piece of this question. Who should we be keeping our eyes on in 2021? I guess we could break this down into two areas, like because we did just get like this really nice fresh crop of new writers and new characters on TV. So old school, well, not old school. We'll say within the last year and a half, versus now. Who should we keep our eyes on?
This for me?
It's for everybody. Well, it's for you, Vinny. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think the newer crop. Obviously, we've talked about these guys already, right? Lycana, Alias, and Charlie Nichols. I think all three of them are really going to bring it. And I think that they're going to write a lot of good stuff. They're going to be always at the top of the card. I also think guys like your Jim Jimsons and your Thunder Knuckles they have nothing but upward mobility, in my opinion, and we'll see what they can do. I think Bob as a whole, they have a lot of fun with what they do, and I think they're going to keep doing it, and it's going to get wilder and crazier. Yeah, I think those were probably the ones that I'm keeping my eye on the most for various different reasons.
Who do you of the characters that we have? Who do you think's about to have a breakout year?
I would say, I would say probably Charlie. I think Charlie's going to do something.
Wouldn't disagree with that. I think that the beautiful thing about the Fed right now and the place that we're at right now. Several things. You have moving parts for the Universal Title division. You have several different people who can carry it at any given time and can do some pretty good things with it. But then you've also got all this to me, it's like untapped talent. I don't think they realize how good they are yet, and they're only going to get better. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just it's uncanny where the Fed is right now versus where the Fed was a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. Now, we've always had writers. You know what I mean? Like you've always had enough to book a card. It's like it feels like to me, it feels like everything is getting a lot fresher. All the title scenes are getting a lot fresher. We're getting influxes here and influx, and it's all at the right time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we have, in my opinion, probably one of the best rosters that I've seen the XWF ever have. And there have been some really good ones. I know that's going to be something that people can argue about, and then they have their opinions. But from what I have seen, from my perspective, up looking down at somebody who has to book them and judge them, I think we're as good as the place has ever been. And I think that is demonstrable just by running 3 different bi-weekly shows that get as much traction as they do. I mean, they're always maxed out on role plays. They're always getting good feedback. They're always getting good reactions. People are invested in it, and I think that makes it as good as it is.
If I can jump in right now, I'm going to say I think Breakout Star 2021. We've already said the name enough times. It's going to be Lycana. By year's end, Lycana will be a title holder of some sort within the Fed. And I don't think that would surprise anybody. It's
That's not going to
just
take that long.
yeah, if she just keeps up the same kind of the same effort that she keeps putting in there, and just there's nothing but upside. She's going to be holding the championship sometime this year. I could definitely see it.
In her eyes, I would hope that I don't want any I would hope that nobody would get discouraged. You know what I mean? Here's the thing with the XWF. It's something that I've really grown to appreciate. And it's more of a situation of you earn it. You earn it here and handed to you. Nothing opportunities are earned. Everything is squared away. In her situation, Bobby, I will totally agree. It is a matter of time. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Same thing with Alias. I think Alias could have a really big year this year. I think that the No Good Bastards could have a really good year this year because I think we're just scratching the surface there. There's a plethora of people if they continue to show. Betsy Granger, another one. If they continue to show the potential that could by mid-year or third quarter easily be in prime contention for any championship that they want.
Yeah, and my booking brain, my storytelling brain tells me, as far as talking about Lycana again, that her and Betsy going at it just makes a perfect storyline sense, right? I mean,
Mhm.
with Jerry's connection to Lycana, Betsy taking the title away from Jerry, I mean, that writes itself. So that could be something that we could see pretty soon.
There's so many different directions for so many different characters to go right now, and a piece of that is when you have people that can get the story going, and then there you have others that will come in and piggyback off of it and continue it. It's just gonna. I think 2021 is a breakout year for the XWF. There's a lot of things that can really happen here, and a lot of different directions that it can go, and it could be anybody's ball game at any time. But
Yeah, I think this was the perfect time to come out with this podcast too. I mean, this was a great next step, and this will definitely get more investment from people. I think it's really already done that. People have gotten extra excited just to listen and talk about the Fed itself.
that's really, I mean, not gonna suck on the tip of your dick here, but that's kind of a testament to you and Theo, because we wouldn't have anything to talk about if you guys weren't behind the scenes moving the parts and keeping the ship going. That in itself is kind of where it's at. Like, I think we do this because you do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where, like, I know with I won't speak for Bobby or TK. They can speak for themselves. On my end, it's we feel like we should give you the effort that you give us, and if it's with a podcast or if it's doing whatever needs to be done at the time, like that's what we're here for.
Yeah,
Am
no,
I
I think
right, guys?
it was a great idea.
I think it was a good idea.
Yeah, it is. And, this is like we're coming to the table now. Like, again, with Splat coming around, our presence growing on, social media, Twitter. I think consistently every year we've been sending people to WrestleStock, just to cross over. And, finally having that capability to cross over with other feds. And, give credit to, to Raven, to Sean Warstein, all of them going out and just not spreading the word of the XWF, but, they competed here, now they're competing elsewhere. People are going to look into their body of work, they're going to see us. And, we're coming to the table, and we're bringing something to the table that nobody else has. And that would specifically be Barney Green.
That's true.
I've got one more question for you, man. This is an interesting one because I mean I'm out of the loop on all this. I'm sure you've probably kind of took a gander at it. It's coming from Thad with the Heart title dedicated to Warfare. The name in memory of Owen Hart, and now in light of the information the XWF has of a member of its own passing away a decade ago, do you think that it's time to rechristen the TV title as the Phoenix Championship? Same rules in place as the television title, renaming the belt the Phoenix Championship. Now, before you answer, back in my day, and I'm going back to early 2000s, there was a Phoenix Championship. It was prominent in the Fed. So now that being said, like I don't know if that title like morphed into the TV title, or did that title just disappear altogether? And I wasn't here that long at that time. I wasn't here that long. So what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I mean that's something we'd be open to. I like to keep things fresh. I mean, we're looking at the 24/7 titles, trying to make something happen with those. Um, the TV title, I mean, its name isn't really what's important about it. I mean, I think it's aspects to it. The fact that it's basically the Savage title, the fact that it's got very unique rule sets to it, which I think open it up to pretty unique match writing. The 15-minute time limit and all that, which is kind of an old school WCW thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't personally know that handler. I only just learned about it the other day. But I could see paying homage to him if people wanted to do that.
You heard it here. So like that's something that maybe it gets kicked around, Thad. Man, I know for myself, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and chat with us a little bit, talk about the Fed. is there anything that you want us to know and the roster to know, or anything that you wanna talk about yourself for a minute or two?
Oh God, no. I definitely don't want to do that. There's really, we're always coming up with new things that we want to try to do. I mentioned the 24/7 titles. That is something that we're gonna change up here in hopefully within the next week. I know some people are Alias and Charlie, who are the title holders for those. They're eager to see what's going to happen with there. So that's going to be fun. Looking at potentially freshening up the forums themselves to a degree, maybe even updating the entire thing, which would be a chore. It would be an ordeal. So that's stuff that we're looking at internally. As far as like from a booking perspective, March Madness is coming up. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a lot more work, probably more work than Snow Job was. So, yeah, I think it's going to be great. And I had a lot of fun on the podcast, guys. I'll come on here more often if I can.
Absolutely, man. Bobby, I mean, you got anything else for Vinny? Any questions for him?
No, get the fuck off the podcast. We got to get the no. Thanks for coming on. I don't really have any other questions. I'm sure more rise like 5 minutes after we finish recording. Like, oh shit, I should have asked him this.
All right, Vinny, man. Again, I appreciate it, and we will definitely have you back on the show. We're only getting started with this. We're doing this for you and for the Fed itself. We hope that we entertain you a little bit. Moving forward, we're gonna bring it just like you do, man. So anytime that you want to pop in and address anything or talk about anything, you have the open invite, bro.
For sure. Looking forward to it. I'll take my leave and go eat my dinner now. Thank you for putting the tip of my dick in your mouth. It'll be easier for you to do that for Theo because his is smaller.
Lies and slander.
I'll see y'all later. And as always, fuck you, Ghost Tank.
Thanks for listening to the Xwf Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Xwf YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at XWF1999. And don't forget to check us out at XWF99.com. Be sure to join us next time where the action never slows down.